I am delighted to be kicking off the new year, couldn't resist that pun, with my guest this morning. Liz Bowie is the Chief Executive Officer for the Aberdeen Football Community Trust. Brilliant to have her for the next in the series of conversations with passion and purpose. So Liz, I'm going to hand over to you, but I'd really love it if you could give me an overview of your career and your current role in 30 seconds, if possible.
Thank you for welcoming me, Jude. So briefly, went to Robert Gordon's University, then various jobs, ended up at the University of Aberdeen for 21 years. The latter, probably half of that working as Director of Development and Alumni Relations. So got to know Dave Cormack at AFC and was offered this exciting new role. Joined on the 3rd of February last year. So predominantly we are working in education, and we use the sort of power of football to help children and young people across Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire with their development. We work in football as well, so all sorts of things you would expect from leagues, festivals, etc. And then we do a huge amount of work in the community. We've done a lot around dementia in the past, but essentially we're looking to maximise the potential of our communities through physical and mental well-being.
We're going to do sort of 7 quick punchy questions, but we might go off piece because I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there, not least that you started in lockdown and all the programs that you have done during what's been obviously a very challenging time to keep those activities going. So the first question is rugby or football?
Football, obviously.
And tell me, what's been your biggest career challenge to date?
Well, probably the transition from working at the university. I was in my comfort zone there. I'd been there a long time, but there was something about coming to AFC. There was definitely something about working for Dave Cormack. He's 100 miles an hour. He's very inspirational, quite demanding, but in a really good way. So the chance to work with Dave and the team at AFC and the Community Trust and really do something good in the community was big change. It was scary in many ways, but I kind of had to just push myself and take that next step.
And coming into that, what do you think is your superpower and what do you bring to your new role?
If someone else described me, I think I'm energetic and I'm passionate, and I'd like to think that I get that out of people as well. So that's why I think with Dave Cormack we work quite well, because we're both sort of 100 miles an hour and can-do attitude. And
at the moment we're back in lockdown, so tell me, what's your favourite binge-worthy TV series?
Oh no, in lockdown I probably hit The Crown big time, but prior to that I went through the whole lot of Narcos on Netflix.
And tell me, diversity in football, discuss.
I would love to promote the women's game. So I have Emma Hunter in my team, and Emma is the manager of the ladies team at AFC. So I think football is getting there in terms of the women's game, but there's not the equality that there needs to be. So definitely a need for more women. I think the Black Lives Matters movement and the kneeling at the start of games is important, but as we've seen just this week, there are all sorts of disgusting things around racism in football. So I think, again, raising the prominence of that anti-racism within the game is hugely important. I also think around sexuality as well, there's still a long way to go there. But I think there's a lot of people that could speak out more profoundly on that subject.
Some of the things that the Trust is doing to address the racism in particular, let's just use that as an example. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Trust is the club's partner charity. So we are a separate charity from the club, but we work really, really closely with the club. And indeed, lockdown has brought that relationship so much stronger, which has been great. So my team last week delivered to the club's youth academy a programme on anti-racism. And they were working with young people who were, in their teens, and talked a lot about social media and trying to get these young people, these young men, to really understand they are role models, and we're bringing them up hopefully to be members of the first team, and what they write has such an impact on others. So really trying to get that across. They talked about David Beckham, for example. I had no idea that he has a Jewish heritage. So really talking about anti-Semitism and bringing that to life, and using other examples of where John Terry at Chelsea had been the England captain, had made a racist remark, and he lost it all.
Lots of things to work on there in terms of diversity, but what other future aspirations do you have, either personally or professionally?
We had our Still Standing Free campaign for the first 6 months of lockdown, which was about getting food parcels out to the vulnerable and calling those in the community. We reached out to 15,000 people through phone calls alone, and 12,000 meals delivered. I don't feel that's what I came in to do. So since August, I got back to probably the real job. And the real job was working in education and getting our coaches back into schools to deal with young people with challenges in their lives, looking at mental health, using the power of football around skills like resilience and empathy, and really bringing these young people and children to a different level and out of themselves. So we do a lot, and I think probably people look at us and think, oh, you're just football, but it's using it, if you like, for that development side. So there's the football piece, and then I cannot wait to get to the other work that we do in the community, looking at intergenerational, looking at dementia work, all these things that have had to stop in lockdown. Yeah, I think there's a lot of learning for me professionally. And then what I want to do is to be able to, if you like, sell the story of the trust and the fact that we're there to maximise the potential of those in our community, and work hopefully closely with our sister club Atlanta. If my time at the trust allows it, I would love an exchange programme of some of these young people, give them that opportunity to go to the States and bring some people over to Scotland. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, that would be phenomenal.
To your point about what do I need to do next, I think the fundraising side for the trust is something I can bring from my work at the university and really get out and get some serious funding in to let us expand beyond where we are just now.
But you have some wonderful anecdotes already, and even though you've been hindered and restricted by COVID, you still you shared an anecdote with me. I don't know if you share it now. You don't need to mention it at the school, but it's a really powerful story that shows you the impact that you and your coaches and the organisation can have on young people.
It's people who work at the trust are. It sounds really gushy, but they are so inspiring. They're quite a young team, but for them, it's more than a job. It is absolutely a vocation. They are passionate. And before lockdown, I had 5 weeks, I think, and I managed to get to a couple of schools in that time. And one was a school in the city, and there were 5 or 6, maybe they were, I don't know, 8 or 9 year olds, and they were in a gym hall. And they were doing sort of football games. And at one point, the ball came over and hit me on the leg, and I kicked it away. And the coach who was standing next to me said, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And he said, "What? I managed to kick a ball?" And she said, No. She said, "The fact that this child had run up to me once I picked it and went, 'Sorry,' and ran off again." And I said, "What?" And she said, he would never have spoken to an adult before he'd been coming to this program. And this young kiddie had been late for school 80 times in the previous year. The school had brought in the trust to run the football programming during the day, but also our breakfast club. And this kid then used to come in every morning, have a nutritional breakfast, then get to do kickabout with the coaches, and hadn't been late once, not once for school that term. And also they were seeing improvements of behaviour in the classroom. I mean, not the finished article, but improvements there that enabled him, because he knew he was going to get to his extra coaching sessions. So yeah, for me, this job is always a bit of tug at the heartstrings. I hear things.
I mean, for me, a lovely segue onto my my next and final question, which is, if somebody watching this, what advice would you give them in order to reach their career goal?
So,
excuse the pun again.
No, very good one. No, I think my advice would be brave. You know, listen to your heart. There will be things out there that will come your way that you will think, I quite fancy, but I'm maybe in my comfort zone. I'm going to have to push myself to do it. And I personally had that fight with myself. I had imposter syndrome where I thought, well, yeah, being CEO, it sounds great, but I can't do that. I've never done that before. I've certainly never worked in the football world, though I've always loved football. It's maybe a step too far. I've been at the university for 20 years. I'm institutionalized almost, but I made the leap and I've never looked back. I absolutely love it. It's a challenge, and starting a new job in lockdown, doubly so, but also the rewards I've reaped through, again, still standing free, but also knowing that I've got the privilege of leading a team that have managed to do things that have impacted like that little boy. So I would say be bold, be strong, and be brave.
Oh, how fantastic way to finish. And I've just listened to a podcast with Jake Humphrey, the sports presenter. So just to keep the sporting analogy, and his point to that was never sit in the comfy chair. So brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. That has been fantastic. What a privilege to speak to you. And I know that you're so busy with all the initiatives that are going on at the moment. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Loved it, Jude.